All right, Alexander, let's do another video on the EU budget, the 7-year budget. We did a video on this last week, and we've mentioned this budget before, that it is, in essence, a slush fund. There's a big part of that budget which contains the pandemic relief, which a lot of states are clamoring for, member states are clamoring for, and it looks like the EU technocrats and bureaucrats are definitely trying to look at using those funds as leverage to impose their woke ideology, which encompasses a lot of things from climate to immigration to various things. But we have more news out of Hungary and Poland. They're digging in. They are not folding to the EU pressures. And we have a response from Viktor Orban to a video that we did on a Soros letter to the EU, where Soros is pretty much telling the EU, he's ordering the EU bureaucrats and technocrats to clamp down on Hungary and Poland. I need to also mention that Biden also called Poland and Hungary authoritarian states. George Clooney the other day, the actor George Clooney, in an interview called Viktor Orban, as well as Bolsonaro, but he called Viktor Orban someone who peddles in hate speech and an authoritarian. All of this points to me because Clooney is part of that Davos crowd, and he made the claim he's only met Soros once. And even though the Hungarian media is criticizing him for his comments, Clooney is saying, well, I'm not a Soros puppet. That's what the Hungarian media is saying, that Clooney is just a Soros puppet. But all of this, to me, Alexander, to wrap it up, is signaling that they're going to be looking at regime change for Hungary and Poland. What form that takes, it's not going to be something like what happened in Ukraine, but they are looking for regime change in Poland and Hungary, but Poland and Hungary are digging in.
Yes, indeed. And this is the key point, because they've now reached an agreement, Poland and Hungary, which is that they will continue to block the EU budget whilst this rule change, this attempt to link funding to, implementation, to rule of law, the EU's ideas about rule of law. Provided that linkage continues, Hungary and Poland will continue to block the EU budget, and they've reached an agreement that they will not back off, and that they will only continue to coordinate, and that one won't back off without the agreement of the other. So they're creating a united front, if you like, and they're digging in. Now, it's important to say they have been under relentless pressure over the last few weeks. Apparently, there's been endless phone calls, endless, visits from all sorts of people, threats, demands, and all the rest. And of course, it's important to say that Hungary and Poland are also big beneficiaries from the EU budget. So by taking this stand, they're acting very bravely, because, of course, ultimately, if the budget fails, they lose financially. But they consider this issue to be so important to themselves that they're going to dig in. Now, let's talk about this rule of law provision, because, of course, who interprets what rule of law is? Well, this is a fundamental issue, because, of course, rule of law is in itself an abstraction. It can be an abstraction. You can apply certain laws. You can have law which you follow, and then somebody else can come along and say, well, your laws don't conform to my ideas of what laws should be, and therefore, even though you are obeying your own laws, I don't accept that that is proper rule of law. I feel that my idea of the rule of law is superior to yours, and therefore I should be able to impose my ideas of the rule of law upon you. And that, I think, is what this rule of law provision is all about. It is the EU being able to come in within the various member state countries and say, we don't like this law, we don't like that law, we don't like this way that you choose judges for your court, or conduct regulatory aid to whatever, and if you don't change that, we will cut off your budget funds. And of course, that is not just interference in the internal affairs of a country and denying its sovereignty, it is also surely preparation for regime change, because you mentioned that Poland and Hungary are outside the Eurozone, and so the European Central Bank can't just switch off funding through the banks to the banking system of these countries, as it did to Greece, and to a lesser extent, by the way, also to Italy during the Eurozone crisis of 2011-12, and again during the Tsipras crisis of 2015. They can, however, in this case, with Hungary and Poland, they can achieve something like the same effect by invoking the rule of law provision to cut off EU funding. So it gives them a financial tool in the absence of Euro membership to put pressure on these countries. And that is why Hungary and Poland see it as an existential threat. And we discussed as you correctly said, in a program we did a short time ago, this extraordinary letter that George Soros sent, in which he calls on the EU to take the hardest possible line with Hungary and Poland. And we've now had this extraordinary reply from the Prime Minister of Hungary, which is Viktor Orban. And in fact, I have it in front of me, and it pulls absolutely no punches. So it says these sort of things. It starts in this way: many believe that the Prime Minister of a country should not enter into an argument with George Soros. The reasoning is that Soros is an economic criminal because he's made his money through speculation, ruining the lives of millions of people and even blackmailing entire national economies. Just as governments must not negotiate with terrorists, they say, prime ministers likewise must not debate with economic criminals. Yet now I am compelled to do so. And then he goes on to discuss in detail and to respond to Soros's statements, but he does so in an extraordinary way. He says the following: in his article, Soros instructs the EU to severely punish those member states that do not want to be part of a unifying European empire under the banner of a global open society. Throughout history, Europe's strength has always been derived from its nations. Although of different origins, European nations were bound together by the common roots of our faith. The foundation of our communities was the European family model, itself based on Judeo-Christian traditions. It was Christian freedom which ensured freedom of thought and culture, and which created benign competition amongst the continent's nations. The magnificent amalgam of contrasts made Europe the world's leading power throughout centuries of history. Every attempt to unify Europe under the aegis of empire has failed. Thus, historical experience tells us that Europe will be great again if its nations become great again and resist all forms of imperial ambition. So he talks here about a Europe of sovereign states working together with a common culture rooted in what he calls the Judeo-Christian tradition. Christianity is a very important issue for Orban. He's a deeply religious man. And working together in friendship and on the basis of their common culture and their common ideas, but not subordinate to each other and not subordinate to some kind of overriding supranational entity that is in effect an empire that imposes its views upon them. So he is framing it now as an existential struggle, as a struggle for Europe's identity and for Europe's freedom and for the freedom of the sovereign states against what he sees as the globalist imperial traditions of the EU bureaucracy and of people like George Soros.
Yeah, I mean, the paragraph right under that, Alexander, to me is what I think an amazing paragraph of what Orban penned, and I'll read it right now. And to me, it's just, I mean, Orban is like, he is calling on everyone to, to understand this is going to be a struggle against the globalists, no doubt about it. And this is a rallying cry coming from Orban and coming from Hungary, that we all need to get ready to save our nations, our culture, our history, our religion, everything, because they're going to be coming at us, with everything they've got. They've got the pandemic. They may have Biden in the White House now. It is going to be, Europe's emboldened. It's going to be an absolute struggle. So here's what Orban said about what's going on with Soros, and really what's going on in the world today. Really what's going on in the world today. The Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, all of this comes to my mind by reading this paragraph. Great forces are once again moving to eradicate the nations of Europe and unify the continent under the aegis of a global empire. The Soros network, which has woven itself through Europe's bureaucracy and its political elite, has for years been working to make Europe an immigrant continent. Today, the Soros network, which promotes a global open society, seeks to abolish national frameworks, is the greatest threat faced by the states of the European Union. The goals of the network are obvious: to create multi-ethnic, multicultural open societies by accelerating migration, and to dismantle national decision-making, placing it in the hands of the global elite. It's that last sentence, placing it in the hands of the global elite. And that first sentence, great forces are once again moving to eradicate the nations of Europe. Those two sentences to me are amazing.
Yes, they are extraordinary. And so, as I said, this is a huge ideological battle, and it is one in which, to be very clear, Orban is not alone. Obviously, the present Polish government supports him, but there are lots of other people in Europe who support him too. And in fact, already we've seen that the Prime Minister of Slovenia has come forward and has expressed his support for what for what Orban, not Soros, obviously, what Orban and Poland are doing. So we have a huge battle, and when it is spoken about in this way, it seems to me that Orban is absolutely not going to back down, because you cannot back down from this when you talk in this kind of way, when you make it appear as if this is a struggle for, in a sense, the survival of the identity of your own nation.
Without a shadow of a doubt, Alexander, I'll leave it here. Without a shadow of a doubt, they're going to come after Hungary with everything they have, especially if Biden gets into the White House. What do you think are the chances that if Biden gets into the White House, that they go to instigate regime change in Hungary and Poland?
I don't think there's any doubt about it at all. I mean, I think, as I said before, the rule of law provision is intended to achieve that. It is a step towards doing that. It's a step towards destabilizing Hungary from within by constantly telling the Hungarians, if you don't change this and you don't change that and you don't change something else, then we will cut off funding to you. And at that point, if you've accepted this provision and taken it on yourself, at that point, always remember there are people in Hungary and there are many people in Poland who are supporters of what you might call the global elite. You will then get the combination of those people, the EU bureaucracy, and all the rest working together to destabilize the situation in Hungary and Poland, and to effect what will be a form of regime change in these countries.
I mean, Poland is teetering on that. With I think about a month ago, they had massive protests related to an abortion law, which when I read the law and I read it through it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. I mean, that's my own personal opinion. It wasn't like it was this groundbreaking, earth-shattering, society-shattering law at all. But I mean, they just amassed thousands, tens of thousands of people out on the streets. I mean, Poland is close to breaking, I think. I could be wrong.
Poland is a deeply divided society. I mean, when I say divided, I want to make it very clear. I mean, I'm not suggesting that, it's anywhere close to civil war or anything like that. But there are now two very profound, outlooks in Poland, which are starting to cohere and which are in conflict with each other. There's a sort of more conservative, traditional Poland, and then there is a more liberal, Europeanist, if you like, Poland. And as you correctly say, they're very evenly balanced. Hungary is different. Hungary is more united, I think, behind Orban. The big difference being that after communism fell, in Poland did very well economically for a very long time, and that has created a strong feeling that assimilating with the European Union and with the West is somehow beneficial to Poland. So it's got a lot of supporters there. Whereas in Hungary, it was the opposite. After the collapse of communism in Hungary, the situation in Hungary became progressively worse until Orban came along and turned it round. So there is a different starting point in terms of recent history in both of these countries. But it's important to say that Poland and Hungary are two ancient nations, both very proud of their histories, extremely proud of their histories, with strong Christian, Catholic, religious traditions, probably more in this case in Poland, even though it's Orban who is emphasizing them more in Hungary in this article that we've just discussed. So they also have a lot in common. And historically, Poland and Hungary, by the way, have always been close friends.
All right, guys, we will leave it there, and we will be monitoring this story very, very closely because this is an important story. It looks like Hungary and Poland have been targeted by the neoliberal elite. So we'll leave it there, guys. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel, hit that notifications bell, give us one of these, give us a thumbs up and a like. Please share this channel, help us grow, because our only growth is really outside of YouTube. So please share this video and this channel to help us get to 140. Let's get to 140,000 subscribers. Also look for us on BitChute, Odyssey, and Rumble. We are on Rumble, so look for us there. You'll find all those links in the description box down below. Also go to the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise. We've got great new mugs right here and a new South Africa mug as well. And of course, PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribe Star. Your donations also helps keep this channel up and running.
And just to remind you all, we have our Duran mugs. We've got them obviously with our various flags. Here is the flag of the United States, the great American democracy. And we got them, with flags of many other countries. And we've also got shirts with flags of countries also. This one you can see there is the flag of Australia. And we've got hats like this one, hats with the tricolor of France there, you can see it. And hats like this one with the Union Jack of Britain. And we've got hoodies, and we've got ebooks too, and we've got amazing things. So come to the Duran, come to our shop, support the Duran, find us, as Alex said, on Rumble, on BitChute, on Library, on Odyssey, support us through Patreon and Subscribe Star, and come to our next broadcast.
All right, Alexander Merkurs, thank you very much. Take care, everybody.